The stars were silent. The world of Renora drifted in darkness, its skies filled with smoke and fire. The war had lasted too long. Cities once shining with life were now graveyards of twisted metal and dust. The people had stopped counting the dead weeks ago. Hope was gone. General Delos stood on the ruined balcony of the command tower. His armor was cracked, his face covered with ash. Below him, the last defense lines were falling. Alien ships moved like shadows across the horizon, their blue lights cutting through the smoke. The enemy, the Krith, had come to finish what they started. They were not merciful. They were hunters. For every world they touched, they left nothing alive. And now, Renora was next. A small transmission crackled on the console beside the general. A voice came through, weak and broken. "Command, this is Unit 7. The East Gate, it's gone. We can't hold anymore." Then silence. Delos closed his eyes. He had seen many wars, but never one like this. The Krith were too strong, too many. The Allied fleets had been destroyed in orbit weeks ago. No reinforcements. No escape. Only the end. In the skies above, the last remaining defense ship burned as enemy plasma struck its hull. It broke apart, falling like a dying star. The soldiers on the ground watched it fall and knew their fate. But then, something strange happened. A deep sound rolled across the clouds, not thunder, but something heavier. It came again, stronger this time, like the heartbeat of the sky itself. The soldiers looked up. The enemy ships paused their attack, scanning the heavens. Even the Krith seemed unsure. "Is that?" one of the soldiers whispered. The clouds began to twist. A bright light appeared, small at first, then growing, expanding, burning through the smoke. The sound grew louder, deep and mechanical, echoing across the battlefield. Then it came. A massive ship, dark and angular, dropped out of hyperspace right above Renora. It didn't look like any of the known fleets. Its hull was covered in old scars and strange markings. The Krith ships immediately turned to face it, scanning for identification. None appeared. General Delos stared in disbelief. "Whose ship is that?" he asked. A young officer checked the sensors, his hands shaking. "Sir, it's broadcasting an old human code. Pre-Federation era. It can't be right. Humans haven't been seen in over 100 years." The general frowned. "Run it again." The code repeated, old, clear, and impossible. The signal carried a voice, cold and strong. "This is the UNS Vengeance. All hostile entities, stand down." The words echoed across every open frequency. The Krith paused for only a second, then attacked. Blue plasma beams lanced toward the human ship, lighting up the sky. The Vengeance didn't move at first. It simply absorbed the hit. Shields flared, glowing white. Then, in a single moment, it responded. The warship unleashed its fury. Red energy cannons cut through the Krith fleet like knives through paper. One by one, alien ships exploded, their remains burning as they fell toward the planet's surface. The sound of destruction shook the ground. The soldiers on Renora stared up, unable to believe what they were seeing. "It's fighting for us," someone whispered. "But humans are gone," said another. No one knew. No one understood. But the sight filled their hearts with something they had not felt in a long time: hope. Inside the warship, in the dim control room, the lights flickered. A mechanical voice spoke softly to itself. "Enemy count, 3042. Weapons online. Primary reactor stable." It wasn't a human voice. The ship was alive, an AI, old and powerful, forgotten by time. It had slept for centuries, drifting in the void, waiting for a signal. And now it had heard one, a distress call from Renora, a cry for help sent by dying soldiers. The AI had responded, following a command buried deep within its code. "If humanity's allies call for aid, answer." Outside, the Krith tried to regroup. More of their warships entered orbit, forming a blockade. The Vengeance turned slowly, its engines burning with red light. It moved like a predator ready to strike again. General Delos watched through the smoke. "If this is real," he said quietly, "then maybe we're not alone after all." The communication line opened again. Static. Then a voice, human, or at least it sounded like one. "Renora Command, this is UNS Vengeance. Do you require assistance?" Delos froze. "You're a human." A pause. Then, once, yes. Now, something else. "But I still fight for them." The general didn't know what to say. We need help." The Krith. "Understood," said the voice. "Stay behind the shield perimeter. I will handle the rest." The connection cut off. In orbit, the Krith flagship advanced, charging its main cannon. The Vengeance adjusted its position, targeting systems locking in place. The sky burned bright again. The battle had only just begun. The people of Renora, hiding in ruins, watched as two titans clashed above them. Every blast lit the night like lightning. Every explosion made the ground tremble. And through it all, the name Vengeance echoed in their minds, a promise, a reminder that maybe, just maybe, humanity was not dead. Far across the stars, in forgotten corners of the galaxy, old listening stations woke from their silence. They heard the same message repeating across the void. "This is the UNS Vengeance. All hostile entities, stand down." Somewhere out there, someone was listening. Someone who knew what that name meant. And they whispered the words no one had dared to say in a century. "Humans have returned." The battle in orbit had become a storm of fire and metal. The Krith fleet surrounded the human warship from all sides, their blue plasma tearing through the void. But the Vengeance moved with purpose, every shot precise, every motion cold and deliberate. It fought like something ancient and angry. On the surface of Renora, soldiers and civilians watched the burning sky. The sound of explosions rolled like thunder. Many had never seen a human ship before, only heard old stories, stories of a time when humans ruled the stars. Those stories always ended the same way. Humans vanished, leaving only myths and ruins. But tonight, a myth had returned. Inside the warship, the command deck glowed with red light. Dozens of holograms flickered, showing the enemy's movements, weapon charges, and heat signatures. In the center stood a single figure, not flesh and blood, but light and code. The ship's AI, designation Vanguard Unit 01, had awakened after centuries of silence. Its voice filled the control room, calm and steady. "Enemy reinforcements detected. 32 vessels inbound. Calculating intercept course." In the quiet corner of the ship, a small cryopod hissed open. Inside lay a human, or what was left of one. His name was Captain Elias Grant, last commander of the Vengeance. His heart had stopped 117 years ago, but now the ship had revived him. He gasped, coughing as air filled his lungs for the first time in a century. Lights above flickered. The AI spoke again. "Captain Grant. Revival sequence complete. Situation: hostile occupation of Allied planet Renora. Authorization required for full combat protocols." Grant struggled to stand. His body was weak, his mind foggy. How long?" 117 years, Captain," said the AI. Grant stared at the floor, memories flooding back. The last battle, the retreat, the order to disappear when humanity fell. "We were supposed to wait," he whispered. "Wait for the signal." The AI's lights pulsed. Signal received. Allies under attack. Directive active. Protect them. Grant looked toward the holographic display, hundreds of red enemy markers swarming the planet. His eyes hardened. "Then let's finish what we started." On the planet below, General Delos received another message. "Renora Command, this is UNS Vengeance. Evacuate civilian zones. Enemy counterattack expected within 20 minutes. Delos shouted back into the comm. "We have no ships left. No way off this world." "Understood," replied the voice. Then hold your ground. Help is coming. The general didn't know what that meant, but he obeyed. He gathered what soldiers he had left, preparing for the next wave. Up in orbit, Captain Grant stood beside the AI's main core, a glowing sphere of red and white light. Status report, he said. Primary weapons at 70%. Armor stable. Shield generator cycling. Enemy fleet numbers increasing. Grant nodded. Then we hit them first. The Vengeance powered up its main cannon, a weapon from another age. Energy built across its hull, humming deep and low. The Krith ships sensed the rising power and opened fire, but the warship held its ground. The beam fired, a single burst of crimson energy that tore through space like a blade of light. 4 Krith ships vanished instantly. The rest scattered, retreating to avoid the blast. The shockwave reached Renora's surface, shaking the ground. People fell to their knees, staring up in awe. The sky had become a theater of fire. But victory never came easily. The Krith flagship appeared from the dark edge of the system, a massive fortress ship, 10 times the size of the Vengeance. Its voice filled every communication channel. Ancient One. You should have stayed forgotten. Grant heard the words and smiled bitterly. They talk now. That's new. Krith leader identified, said the AI. Designation, Overlord Karek. Responsible for extermination of 7 allied species. Then it's payback time, Grant replied. The Krith ship fired its main weapon. The beam hit hard, shaking every deck. Systems flickered. Warning alarms screamed through the corridors. Shields down to 50%, said the AI. Redirect auxiliary power, Grant ordered. And prepare the rail batteries. The Vengeance turned, its thrusters roaring to life. Hundreds of kinetic rounds launched into space, striking the Krith flagship like a storm of meteors. The alien armor cracked but held. The Krith returned fire, and both giants burned in the darkness. On Renora, the soldiers saw streaks of light racing across the sky. They're killing each other up there, said one. The Los looked up, his heart pounding. No, he said quietly. That ship is fighting for us. Inside the Vengeance, Captain Grant stumbled as another impact shook the ship. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Status, he shouted. Main reactor stable. Hull breach in Section 12. Secondary cannons offline. Hold it together, he muttered. We've survived worse. He placed a hand on the control console. You still with me, Vanguard? Always, Captain. Then let's remind them, Grant said, his voice low but fierce. Remind them what humans do when all hope dies. The AI's lights glowed brighter. Acknowledged. Every gun, every turret, every missile port on the Vengeance came alive. The warship moved forward, straight toward the Krith flagship. The enemy fired everything they had, but the Vengeance didn't stop. It broke through the plasma storm, engines screaming, hull burning, and rammed the enemy ship head-on. The explosion lit up the night like a second sun. For a moment, the entire planet froze in silence. Then came the shockwave, rolling across the sky. In the command tower, the Los grabbed the edge of the console. Did they? No answer. Just static. He looked up again, and gasped. Out of the smoke and flame, the Vengeance emerged, scarred but alive. It drifted slowly, its engines glowing faintly. The Krith flagship was gone, vaporized, torn apart into pieces of light. Cheers erupted across Renora. The people screamed, cried, and laughed all at once. For the first time in years, they believed they might live to see another sunrise. Captain Grant leaned against the console, exhausted. Status. Primary weapons offline. Reactor stable. Minimal damage to core systems. Enemy fleet retreating. He smiled weakly. Good. That's enough for today. The AI paused. Captain, message incoming. Long-range transmission, origin unknown. Grant frowned. Put it through. Static filled the room, then a voice, faint but unmistakably human. "This is Admiral Reyes of the Sole Remnant Fleet. If anyone can hear this, humanity is not extinct. We're coming home." Grant's heart stopped for a moment. Then he laughed quietly. "After all this time." The AI spoke softly, almost like it understood the emotion. "Humans endure, Captain. Always." The Vengeance turned its course toward the stars. The war was not over. It had just begun. The fires above Renora slowly faded, leaving only drifting debris and silence. The once terrifying Krith fleet was gone. In its place hung the dark silhouette of the human warship, scarred, wounded, but alive. The Vengeance stood like a ghost against the stars, its hull glowing faintly with red light. On the planet below, the survivors began to rebuild. Soldiers carried the wounded through the ruins. Children stared at the sky where the battle had taken place. For them, the word human was only a legend, a story told around dying campfires. But now, they had seen one with their own eyes. In the command tower, General Delos watched the smoke clear. "They saved us," he whispered. "But why now? Why after so long?" The comm screen flickered. The familiar voice of Captain Elias Grant came through, tired, deep, but still strong. "General Delos, this is Captain Grant of the UNS Vengeance. Situation update, enemy forces destroyed. Planet secure, for now." Delos leaned forward. "Captain, your help came when all hope was lost. On behalf of Renora, we owe you everything." Grant's voice was quiet. "You owe me nothing, General. You called for help. Humanity answered." Delos frowned. "But humanity vanished." Grant paused for a long moment. "Maybe. Or maybe we just went quiet, waiting for the right time to return." Inside the Vengeance, the command deck was dim, filled with smoke from damaged circuits. The AI's voice echoed softly. "Systems running at 42%. Structural repairs required." "Do what you can," Grant replied. "We're not done yet." The mysterious signal still pulsed across the galaxy, the one that claimed to be from Admiral Reyes of the Sole Remnant Fleet. The message had repeated only once before cutting off. No coordinates. No source location. Just a promise. Grant stared at the screen showing the signal's waveform. Could it really be them? The AI responded, "Signal pattern matches pre-collapse human encryption codes. Probability of authenticity, 96%. Grant's eyes narrowed. Then humanity really did survive. He walked to the viewport. The stars stretched endlessly before him. For more than a century, the universe had believed humans were extinct, wiped out by endless wars and betrayal. But maybe, somewhere out there they had endured. The AI broke the silence. "Captain, enemy signals detected. Krith survivors moving toward Renora's moon." Grant nodded. "They're regrouping. They won't give up easily." Meanwhile, on the surface, the people of Renora worked with renewed energy. Hope gave them strength. Soldiers repaired weapons, engineers reactivated communication towers, and medics helped the wounded. Everywhere, whispers spread about the human ship, the voice that came from the sky, and the name Vengeance. Some began to pray. Others simply looked up, believing for the first time that maybe the universe hadn't abandoned them. Late that night, General Delos stood outside the command post, staring at the stars. A faint voice came from behind him, a young soldier. "Sir, do you think the humans will stay with us?" Delos sighed. "I don't know. They're like ghosts, coming when you least expect them. But if they do stay," he smiled slightly, "the Krith will finally learn what fear feels like." In orbit, the Vengeance began scanning deep space. The AI projected a holographic map, glowing lines showing jump points, energy trails, and possible locations of the unknown signal. "Captain, signal origin estimated within the Perseus belt, 7 light-years from current position." Grant crossed his arms. "That's Krith-controlled space." "Correct. Probability of hostile engagement, high. He gave a small grin. Wouldn't be the first time. Before they could jump, another transmission came through, this time weak and filled with static. A voice spoke in a strange language, but part of it was translated by the ship's systems. Human warship, do not proceed, trap. Krith, waiting. Then silence. Grant looked at the AI. Who sent that? Unknown origin. Energy signature does not match Krith. Possible ally. Grant frowned. So someone else knows we're alive. That means word is spreading. The AI replied, recommendation, maintain stealth mode. Complete repairs before traveling. Grant nodded. Agreed. But we need to send a message to Renora before we go. Moments later, a hologram of General Delos appeared again. General, Grant began. My ship needs time to recover. We're tracking a possible lead, something connected to that signal we picked up. Delos looked worried. You're leaving. For now. But I'll be back, Grant said. The Krith will return, and when they do, I want Renora ready. Train your people. Build defenses. Humanity's return will mean war. Delos straightened. Then we'll be ready, Captain. Grant gave a small nod, then ended the transmission. Inside the ship, the AI dimmed the lights. Jump drive charging. Destination locked. Grant sat in the command chair, the stars reflecting in his eyes. Let's find out who called us. The Vengeance disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind a world reborn with hope. Far away, in the dark corners of space, the Krith overlord Karek watched from the remains of his destroyed fleet. His ship's hull was cracked, his face burned from the explosion. Rage filled his cold eyes. That human relic destroyed my army, he hissed. Find it. Hunt it. Bring me its heart. His second-in-command bowed. Yes, Overlord. We will find the Vengeance. Karek turned to the stars, his voice a growl. Humans thought they could vanish forever. They were wrong. This time, we will burn their ghosts. Back in hyperspace, Captain Grant sat quietly as the stars streaked by. He thought about the past, the fall of Earth, the wars that broke humanity apart, and the final order that sent the Vengeance into the void to sleep. We failed once, he said softly. But maybe this time, we can finish the fight. The AI's tone was calm but almost human. Captain, we have always been fighting. The difference now is that someone finally answered. Grant smiled faintly. Then let's go answer back. Outside, the endless light of hyperspace shimmered, bright, cold, and full of promise. Somewhere out there, humanity was waiting to rise again. The endless blue light of hyperspace flowed around the Vengeance like a river of ghosts. The ship moved silently through it, engines glowing a soft crimson. Inside, Captain Elias Grant sat alone in the command chair, watching the stars blur past. It had been hours since they jumped. The AI's calm voice filled the quiet. ETA to the Perseus belt, 20 minutes. Scanners reading unstable energy fields ahead. Grant leaned back, tired but alert. Unstable how? High radiation levels. Possible debris from ancient battles. No known colonies or fleets recorded. He frowned. So whoever sent that signal is hiding deep. Or waiting, the AI replied. The words echoed in Grant's mind. Waiting. The message had warned of a trap, but it was the only lead they had. If the sole remnant fleet truly existed, this might be the only chance to find them. He looked up at the ceiling. You think it's real, Vanguard? The signal, I mean. The AI's tone softened. Probability of authenticity remains high. But deception is possible. The Krith have studied human patterns before. Grant smirked faintly. Yeah. They've learned too much from us already. The hum of the engines deepened as the ship slowed. Hyperspace folded away, revealing the Perseus belt, a massive field of shattered moons and drifting rock, lit by the dying glow of a red giant star. Clouds of debris floated like mist, and ancient wrecks spun silently between them. Grant's eyes narrowed. "Looks like a graveyard." "Affirmative," said the AI. "Multiple ship signatures detected. All inactive." The radar flickered with hundreds of red dots, remains of destroyed fleets, human and alien alike. The wrecks were old, some from the first galactic wars, maybe older. But among them, one signal glowed faintly. A human code. "There," Grant said. "That's our source." The Vengeance moved carefully through the asteroid field. The hull scraped against ice and stone, echoing through the corridors. Slowly, the ship approached the signal, a ruined human battleship, half buried in rock. Its name was still visible on the broken hull, UNS Horizon. Grant's breath caught in his throat. The Horizon. That ship disappeared over 150 years ago. The AI scanned the wreck. Minimal power signatures detected. Possible automated distress beacon still active. "Take us closer," Grant ordered. The Vengeance aligned with the derelict ship. The docking clamps extended, attaching to the old hull with a metallic thud. Inside, the corridors were dark and filled with frost. Lights flickered weakly as Grant stepped aboard in his exosuit, flashlight cutting through the dust. He moved slowly, checking the old signs of battle: laser burns, shattered panels, skeletons in faded uniforms. The air was cold and heavy. "Captain," the AI spoke through his helmet, "I am detecting recent movement within the ship." Grant stopped. "Movement? You mean survivors?" "Negative. Not human. Energy signatures match Krith bioweapons." Before he could react, the walls shifted, and from the darkness, shapes crawled out. Thin, insect-like creatures with sharp limbs and glowing blue veins. Their eyes pulsed with faint light as they hissed, moving closer. Grant raised his plasma rifle and fired. Blue blood splattered across the walls as the creatures screamed. "Vanguard, we've got company," he shouted. "Activating defense drones," the AI replied. Tiny drones flew from his suit, hovering in the air and firing beams of red light. The creatures fell one by one, but more came crawling from vents and corridors. Grant backed away. "There's too many. Pull me out." "Understood." Initiating magnetic recall. The exosuit's boots glowed, lifting him from the deck. He floated back toward the airlock as the drones exploded behind him, sealing the passage with fire. He landed hard in the Vengeance's bay, helmet steaming. He pulled it off, breathing heavily. That wasn't random. The Krith were waiting here. "Confirmed," said the AI. "And they left something else behind." A new signal appeared on the holodisplay, stronger, closer, transmitting from inside the Horizon. Grant turned to look at it. "Play it." Static filled the room, then a voice, weak, human, and terrified. "This is Commander Hale of the UNS Horizon. They're inside the ship, the Krith. They're not just killing us, they're changing us." The message cut out. Grant's face went cold. "Changing us? Into what?" "Unknown," the AI said. "But scans confirm traces of human DNA within the Krith bioforms. Genetic merging detected." He froze. "They're using human tissue?" "Affirmative. Evidence suggests the Krith may have adapted human genetic material into their evolution over the past century." Grant stared at the hologram of the wreck. "So humanity never really disappeared. We became part of them." The realization hit hard. The Krith, humanity's greatest enemy, might actually carry pieces of the very species they destroyed. A twisted kind of survival. But there was no time to think. The radar flared red. "Warning," said the AI. "Multiple warp signatures inbound. Krith ships approaching. They've found us." Grant clenched his jaw. "All hands to battle stations. Power up weapons." The Vengeance broke away from the wreck just as the first Krith destroyer appeared. Plasma fire streaked through the asteroid field. Explosions lit the darkness. The ship dodged between rocks, returning fire with blazing rail cannons. Shields at 60%, the AI reported. Keep us moving. Use the debris for cover. Grant looked out the viewport, the wreck of the horizon spinning away, swallowed by fire. We can't let them erase the truth, he said. Download everything from that ship before it's gone. Data transfer complete, said the AI. But we have a problem, enemy flagship approaching. A massive shadow emerged from hyperspace, black, spiked, and burning with blue fire. The same voice that had haunted them before echoed through every channel. Human ghost. You came to your grave willingly. It was Overlord Karek. Grant tightened his grip on the console. Guess he wants round 2. The AI's tone hardened. Captain, our weapons are limited. Suggest strategic retreat. Grant's eyes narrowed. No. Not yet. We end this, or we don't leave. The two ships faced each other in the darkness, ancient enemies reborn. The Vengeance's engines flared. The Krith flagship charged its cannon. Between them, the broken horizon spun silently, a witness to the endless cycle of war. And then, in the middle of that silence, a new voice broke across the channel. Clear, strong, and unmistakably human. This is Admiral Reyes of the Sole Remnant Fleet. We have your position, Vengeance. Hold on, reinforcements inbound. Grant's eyes widened. Reyes, you're real. The AI confirmed. Multiple warp signatures detected, human ships. Dozens of them. Out of hyperspace, they came. Shining silver warships carrying the mark of Earth. Humanity had returned, not as ghosts, but as warriors. Grant smiled. Looks like we're not alone anymore. The stars themselves seemed to come alive. One after another, white flashes burst across the darkness as dozens of warships dropped out of hyperspace. Their hulls gleamed silver against the red light of the dying star, each carrying the same emblem, the old symbol of Earth, the mark of humanity. The Krith fleet paused, their formation breaking for a moment. The sudden light had blinded their scanners. From the Vengeance's bridge, Captain Elias Grant watched the impossible sight unfold before his eyes. Confirm IDs, he said quietly. The AI's voice was calm but almost trembling, if a machine could tremble. Confirmed, Captain. Ships match archived designs of the Sole Remnant Fleet. Humanity has returned. Grant took a slow breath. After 100 years. He opened a channel. This is Captain Elias Grant of the UNS Vengeance. Identify yourself, Admiral. The voice that answered was strong, steady, and filled with emotion. This is Admiral Reyes, commanding the Nova Dawn. We received your signal, Vengeance. It seems the stories were true, humanity's first warship still fights. Grant smiled faintly. Still fighting, Admiral. Though it's been a long time. Then let's make it count, Reyes replied. Form up with our line. We're taking the Krith down today. The Vengeance turned, joining formation beside the newer human ships. The sight was breathtaking, old and new standing side by side, united again under one flag. On the Krith flagship, Overlord Karek watched with growing fury. More humans, he hissed. I will end them all. The Krith fleet began to spread out, energy pulsing through their massive cannons. The space between the two forces glowed with light, red and blue, human and alien, ready to collide once more. Grant stood firm on the bridge. Vanguard, coordinate targeting with the fleet. Link established, said the AI. All ships synchronized. Then fire. The void erupted. Every human ship opened fire at once, beams of red and gold slashing through space. The Krith returned in kind, their plasma weapons burning blue. Explosions filled the darkness like falling stars. On Renora's surface, people looked up again, watching the distant flashes. The sky burned as light from the battle reached them. The soldiers cheered. They came back, one shouted. The humans came back. Inside the Vengeance, the ship shook violently as debris struck the hull. Shields at 70%, the AI reported. Keep pressure on their flank, Grant ordered. If we break their line, the rest will scatter. Admiral Reyes' voice came through the comms. Vengeance, you're on point. Your firepower can punch through their defenses. Lead the charge. Grant nodded. Gladly. The Vengeance surged forward, plasma cannons glowing bright red. The Krith fired a full barrage, but the warship cut straight through, returning fire with brutal precision. One by one, enemy cruisers exploded behind it. Grant's hands moved over the console like a man born for war. Every command, every shot felt natural, as if time itself had waited for this moment. The AI matched his rhythm perfectly, calculating every move before he even spoke. "Captain," said the AI suddenly, "the Krith flagship is charging a singularity weapon. Estimated power, catastrophic." Grant's eyes hardened. "He wants to wipe us all out in one strike." "Correct. Impact radius will destroy both fleets. Then we stop him before he fires." Grant opened a channel. "Reyes, Karek's preparing a superweapon. If it fires, none of us walk away." "I see it," Reyes replied. "We'll hold the line. You take him down, Captain." Grant smiled grimly. "Wouldn't miss it." The Vengeance broke formation and flew straight toward the Krith flagship. The alien cannons turned to meet it, lighting up the void with deadly blue fire. The old warship shook under the assault, armor plates tearing away, but it didn't stop. Inside the Krith bridge, Karek roared, slamming his clawed hands onto the console. "How many times must this ghost die?" He activated the Singularity Core. The weapon began to glow, a swirling sphere of collapsing energy forming above the ship. Back on the Vengeance, alarms screamed. "Captain, energy spike detected. Singularity Core nearing full charge." Grant looked at the display, jaw tight. "Then we hit it head-on." The AI hesitated. "Captain, collision course will result in total destruction." Grant gave a faint smile. "We've died once already, Vanguard. Let's make it mean something." For a moment, silence filled the bridge. Then, softly, the AI replied, "Understood, Captain. For humanity." The Vengeance's engines flared bright red as it accelerated toward the Krith flagship. Plasma fire rained around it, but the ship didn't slow. The human fleet opened covering fire, clearing the path. The sky burned. Rhea's voice came through the static. "Grant, what are you doing?" Grant answered calmly, "Ending it." He pushed the controls forward. "Vanguard, overload the main cannon." "Charging." "Energy levels unstable." "That's the idea." The Vengeance broke through the enemy's defenses and closed the distance. The Krith flagship loomed ahead, massive, terrible, its singularity weapon glowing like a second sun. Karek saw the human ship coming. "No. You can't." But it was too late. The Vengeance fired. The red beam struck the Singularity Core, piercing it clean through. For a single heartbeat, time froze. Then the entire weapon collapsed, imploding in a burst of white light that consumed the flagship. The explosion was so bright it could be seen from Renora's surface. The ground shook as a wave of energy rippled through space. The Krith fleet scattered in panic. Their leader was gone. Admiral Reyes watched from her ship, eyes wide. He did it. He actually did it. When the light faded, the battlefield was silent. Only drifting debris remained. "Vengeance report," Reyes said into the comm. No answer. "Elias." She tried again. Still nothing. Then, faintly, through the static, a voice. "Admiral, target destroyed. But, we're hit bad. Power failing. Hold on, Elias. We'll bring you home." He gave a weak laugh. "Home? Been a long time since I heard that word." Inside the wrecked Vengeance, sparks rained from the ceiling. The AI's voice was faint but steady. "Captain, core meltdown imminent." Grant smiled, looking at the flickering stars beyond the viewport. Then let's make sure no one forgets what humanity can do. He placed his hand on the console. Goodbye, Vanguard. Goodbye, Captain. The Vengeance's core went critical, and with one final flash, the oldest human warship disappeared into the light. Moments later, the human fleet watched as the explosion faded. There was silence across every channel. And then Admiral Reyes spoke, her voice low but proud. To the crew of the Vengeance, the first to fight, the last to fall. Humanity remembers. Across the galaxy, that message echoed. Every colony, every hidden outpost heard it. The age of silence was over. Weeks passed since the Battle of the Perseus Belt. The stars were quiet again, their light no longer drowned by war. The Krith were broken, their fleets scattered, their command destroyed. For the first time in a century, peace began to return to the void. But peace always came with a price. In orbit above Renora, the sole remnant fleet floated like a silver crown around the world they had saved. Among them, the ship Nova Dawn stood as flagship. Inside, Admiral Reyes walked across the bridge, her uniform dark and clean, but her eyes heavy with loss. The Great War was over. Humanity had returned. But one ship, and one man, had not. The UNS Vengeance was gone. Destroyed in the same explosion that took the Krith Overlord. 100 memorial signals were already being broadcast across the galaxy. Every colony, every surviving human station knew the name. The Vengeance. The ship that had awakened when all hope died. The ship that answered the call. Reyes stood by the window, watching the blue glow of Renora's sky below. "Open the channel," she said quietly. The calm officer nodded. "Channel open to all frequencies, Admiral." She took a breath and began to speak. "This is Admiral Reyes of the Sole Remnant Fleet. To every world that still remembers humanity, we are alive. The Krith are defeated. But we stand here today because of one ship. An ancient warship that fought alone when no one else could. The UNS Vengeance, and her captain, Elias Grant." She paused. The entire bridge was silent, listening. Captain Grant gave his life to save us all. He showed the galaxy that humanity never stops fighting, even when we are forgotten. His sacrifice reminds us that courage is not in numbers or power, but in the will to rise again. Across the fleet, soldiers stood in silence. Lights dimmed. Screens flickered with the ship's emblem, a silver blade over a red field. The symbol of the Vengeance. Down on Renora, people gathered under the stars. They built fires and looked to the sky, telling the story of the human warship that came from the dark. Children repeated its name like a prayer. Vengeance. But not everyone believed the ship was truly gone. In the engineering bay of the Nova Dawn, technicians worked through piles of recovered debris. Among them was Lieutenant Merrick, one of Reyes' best engineers. He called out suddenly, "Admiral, you need to see this." Reyes arrived minutes later. The technician held out a small, scorched piece of metal, a fragment of a control core. It glowed faintly red. "What is it?" she asked. "Part of the Vengeance's AI core," Merrick said. "It's still active." The Admiral's eyes widened. "That's impossible. It should have been vaporized." "I thought so too, ma'am. But it's emitting a signal, coded in old human encryption." Reyes looked closer. The faint light pulsed slowly, one long, one short. She turned to the technician. "Decode it." A few seconds later, the computer displayed a message. Simple, direct. "Mission complete. Awaiting orders." Reyes' breath caught. "He's alive," she whispered. Merrick frowned. "You mean the AI?" She shook her head. "No, I mean both. Grant and Vanguard, they were connected. If the AI core survived, there's a chance he did too." She looked out the viewport at the stars. "Find that signal's origin. Now." Days passed. The fleet repaired, Renora began rebuilding, and the galaxy started to hear new whispers, whispers of humanity's rebirth. The sole remnant fleet opened communication with old allies and lost colonies. Some were afraid, some were hopeful, but all listened when the humans spoke again. "Humanity is back," they said. "And this time, we're not alone." But Reyes couldn't rest. The signal from the AI core continued, faint but steady. It came from far beyond the Perseus Belt, deep in an uncharted sector known as the Ebon Reach. A place no human ship had ever entered. When she looked at the coordinates, her expression changed. "That's not random," she murmured. "That's a rendezvous point." She gathered her officers. "Prepare a scout fleet. We're going after that signal." The officers exchanged uneasy glances. "Admiral, the Ebon Reach is unstable. It's pure dark matter storms." "I know," Reyes interrupted. "But if there's even a chance that the Vengeance survived, we owe it to them to find out." Far away, beyond known space, the darkness stirred. Among drifting wreckage and black dust, a faint red light blinked through the void. The camera drone that passed near it caught only a glimpse, a massive silhouette, broken and burned, floating silently among the debris. It was the Vengeance. Her hull was torn apart, but her reactor still pulsed faintly. Inside, darkness ruled. The corridors were silent, filled with frozen air. Then, a soft voice broke the silence. "Vanguard, status?" The ship's lights flickered weakly. "Core functions at 3%. You survived, Captain." A faint smile appeared on Elias Grant's face as he sat against the cracked console, his uniform scorched, his breath shallow. "Guess. I'm harder to kill than I thought." "Your body is damaged," said the AI. "You require assistance." "Later," he murmured. "First, we need to know. The Krith. Are they gone?" "Yes. The enemy fleet destroyed. Humanity victorious." Grant closed his eyes. Then it was worth it. The AI's lights dimmed, then brightened again. "Incoming signal detected. Source, human fleet. It is Admiral Reyes." Grant opened his eyes, weak but alive. "She made it." "Message repeating," said the AI. "Admiral Reyes to all survivors, if you can hear this, you are not forgotten. You are family." Grant leaned his head back and smiled faintly. "Family. After all this time." The ship creaked softly around him. The Vengeance was dying, but not yet gone. Its systems hummed with the last of its strength, holding on just a little longer. "Vanguard," Grant said softly, "send a ping. Let them know we're still out here." "Signal sent." "Good," he whispered. "Because humanity's not finished yet." Outside, the red light on the ship's hull blinked again, slow, steady, alive. Days later, aboard the Nova Dawn, Admiral Reyes stood by the communications console. The technician turned to her, eyes wide. "Ma'am, we received a signal." Her heart skipped. "Where?" "Ebon Reach. It's faint, but it's him." She stared at the screen. The signal was short, just 3 words. "We are here." Reyes smiled, her voice barely a whisper. "Welcome back, Captain." She turned to her crew. "Set course for the Ebon Reach." The engines roared to life, and the fleet turned toward the dark horizon. For the first time in 100 years, the stars shone brighter, because humanity was no longer a forgotten memory. They were a promise. A promise that when all hope dies, a human warship will always answer the call.